How to get your power back? Let's talk about it. My name's Crystal. I'm the host of this incredible show. Welcome to my new apartment in near Atlanta, Georgia. We're actually living in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And before we dive into this incredible conversation, hi, everybody. Say hi. Tell me where you're watching from. If you're listening to this later and you could leave a review, that would be awesome. That's all the housekeeping. How do you get your power back is where we're going to go today. And this conversation was stimulated, like most of the ones that I choose, by a class that I'm doing. And we are about to launch into another round of the How to Become Money Workbook. This thing here, it's a book you can buy. It's a class you can take. And it is one of the most, probably the most transformative money tools that I've ever used in my life. It's the thing that I use to change my entire financial reality, my entire financial inner game. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Kim. Hi, Bernarda. And so we're going to shape this conversation and use this book to do it. I hear a lot of people say phrases like step into my power, get my power back, feeling powerless. And for the most part, all the conversations that I hear around power have to do with the fact that it's gone and it's missing and you don't know where to get it. And one of the things that I find so transformative about this conversation here is that we start to realize that we are the thing that we're looking for and we just aren't choosing it. I've told many of my money stories before, but the story that one of the most catalytic moments for me was when I was probably suffering the most. Now, for all of you guys, if you are here and you're looking to change the conversation of money in your world, you can replace that word with body, with awareness, with something that's not working. Basically, if you're looking to change something that's not working, where we typically go to look for stuff is the problem direction. We typically go, what's the problem? And if I can find the problem, then I can create the solution. The thing is that problems are invented realities. So even if you find one that you made up, and I don't know who I was talking to the other day, I was like, you do know this is invented, right? And they were like, what? Problems are invented things. So even if you find an invented thing and you find the invented solution to that thing, it's not actually going to create permanent change. And I've told my stories over and over and over, but I keep experiencing them. Like with money in particular, there was always a ceiling to which I could create and never anything beyond that. And I'm probably out creating another one of those in my life right now. It's just a higher ceiling, right? So I learned how to create money. But then, as I've said before, I stayed in the pattern with which I functioned with money for a really long time, years after I learned to create it. So this is something to get. Like, you can go, I was on Instagram today and I was looking just at the hashtag money mindset. And a lot of what's on money mindset should really be like money, go, 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 money cheerleading. Because it wasn't so much about mindset as it was about you can find money anywhere. These are the 22 side hustles that you could start right now. Here's all the different things you can do with $1. Here's how you can save money. I would say they're money tips, not so much money mindset. Because the truth is that you can increase your revenue. You can add things, right? You can add 3 or 4 side hustles. I was even listening to someone the other day that said the United States is the place you can't live without 3 jobs, which, if you're doing job reality, is probably true. But the United States is also a place where you can go, I'm going to have any reality I choose, and not just the United States, by the way, for those of you around the world. I'm going to have any reality that I choose, and I'm going to invent it and come up with it. Now, what can I add to my life to have it? So the thing is that we're all having these different experiences of life and of money, no matter where we live. And But there's one antidote to having something different, and that's becoming willing to be power, be awareness, be creativity, be control, be money. Now, whatever you can be, you can have. And that's going to be a total mind fuck if you try to understand that with your mind. But let me turn it into and include this conversation here. The reason this works is because one of the first things that we start to look at is, where are you disempowering yourself? Did you know that when you take a point of view about something, you are disempowering yourself? I was chatting with a couple of friends of mine, and we talk almost every day, a couple of CF friends, and we do a 30 by 30 amongst us, and we just kind of look at stuff, and sometimes it's fast, sometimes we take an hour. And one of the things we were looking at today in particular was all the all the different points of view that have to go into considering everybody else before yourself. And so we're running a 30 by 30 that's just breaking up, where we've decided that consideration is a need. I need to consider your point of view. I need to consider what you have to say. I need to consider your feelings. Now, does that mean we're going to come out of this and be cold-hearted bitches? We already are. No, it just means that we're not going to any longer be controlled by the need of something. Now, if you relate this to money, let's actually pull this in. When you need something, so let's say you need to consider other people's opinions on money, or you need to consider anything and everything else before you choose something greater with your life, which is usually what produces money. And what you've decided is that because you have thought it through and you have considered everything, and all these people that are going to have opinions about it, and all these things that are probably going to occur, and all this past history you have with failing, right? You've considered everything. You've decided that you won't. If you didn't have any considerations about anything or anyone, what would you do? Well, you would just choose, right? You would just choose whatever you wanted. So the need of considerations, for example, holds in place the not being able to choose anything else. So this is what we start to look at with money. All these hidden things. What is it to you? What are the hidden things that money is to you? What are the hidden emotions that you have when you think of money? What are the hidden considerations that you have building and seeding your financial world? And I was on a Club Consciousness call with Shannon O'Hara the other day, and she was talking about your biome. Now, a biome, I'm gonna explain this badly, but essentially a biome is the environment that you create. So your body has a biome, and it's composed of all of these microorganisms. And we have, Shannon was saying, and we're playing telephone here because I haven't really studied this, but Shannon was saying something like she said she heard that, if we tried to extract the biome from our body, it would be like 2 to 3 pounds worth. Like literally our physiology functions because of the bioenergetics of it, the bioorganisms, the microorganisms composing the environment in which our body either thrives or dies. Now, the same is true of your financial world. You create the biome of your financial world or your physical world or your relationship world with the thoughts that you think. Now, 98.99999% of the thoughts in your head aren't yours. But we rarely ask those thoughts a question, and most of them are completely unconscious. So it's not like you have billboards floating across your head all the time with money. You just have these unconscious patternings and ways of functioning from it. So how do you get your power back? Well, one of the first things you do is you start to look at the unconscious stuff. And so there's 13 questions in here, and we start to go through them. And the exercise, and the reason we do this for 10 weeks is you do those questions every single week, and you get 3 things. Now, what's going to be really interesting is that every single week, those 3 things are going to be different. You're going to have different stuff popping up that is unconscious about money. So last week, money might have been, money is cash and green and scarce. This week, money might be lack and scarcity and survival. Next week might be worry, stress, anxiety. Week 4 could be money is fun, money is joy, money is whatever. Every single week, we're going to destroy and uncreate all of that. Why? Because it's not because, number one, it's not relevant what you think money is. What's relevant is that you can be money. Number 2, it's not relevant how you feel about money. Although that is the thing we make most relevant. I feel worry, I feel stress, I feel anxiety, I feel excited, I feel rich when, I feel poor when. We typically make the feelings like the most important thing, and we're looking for the solution to our financial reality, all of which are misuses of power. So we make all of those relevant, we make those significant, and because those are in the problem biome, we go looking for the solution, and that's a non-functional situation. And if you go back a few episodes and you listen to How to Become Money in the Big Five, that's where you are in the Big Five. Big Five renders you non-functional. So what's required is to create a biome, a financial and money biome, where you and your life can thrive. When you spend a lot of energy in the, and I can tell some stories about this as I have before. I don't spend energy there anymore. When I get low on cash, I get to work. That's it. I'll feel myself pulling for a moment into the stress and worry direction, and then I stop myself and we go into creation. And that I learned from this book, because if we circle around to the end of this book, the end of the book is basically, here's your tools. Here's the things you want to use. So you have to use those things to create a new biome. How many of you have created a financial biome of lack and scarcity and survival and worry and stress and not enough? Now, when you try to create something from that biome, how does it go? When you try to create a class, or you try to offer a new service, or, how does it go? What are you hiding and trying not to let people see? Is there anything? And so what we want to do is we want to address that stuff. We want to address the stuff that you're hiding, so you don't have to hide it anymore. You can be congruent all the way through. You can be money all the way through. So that's the purpose. So power is knowing. Power is knowing. Now, there are many different powers in the overarching umbrella of knowing. Being willing, aloneness is a power. There's a list of about 30 in the reference materials. So there's different facets of power, but power is knowing. When you be and you know, you are power. And from power, you create. And as power, everything is possible and everything is available to you. So do you create from I am this, or do you create from I'm trying to be this? Each of those creates a different biome. And that biome is forming your experience of life. Now, we are each the source of the experience of life that we're having. And there was 5 kids in my family, still is. And I remember being in my 20s, and we were all starting to grow up, and maybe it was in my 30s even. And we would get together, and this was when we talked. We don't really talk that much anymore. But it was so interesting to hear each kid's take on our childhood. Now, you guys have heard me talk about it a lot, but that's my take. That's my point of view. That's my perspective. If we were the true believer witnesses from Stranger in a Strange Land with Robert Heinlein, we would have each been standing at a different point of the elephant, having a different point of view about what our childhood was. Now, this is what we all do about everything. Our point of view is creating our reality. So we're standing at the ass end of the elephant in our financial reality going, well, money is shit, and it's stinky, and it's big, and it smothers me, and I hate it. And then somebody else is standing at another end of the elephant, maybe the kissing end. I don't know if elephants kiss, but, and they're like, money is sweet, it's attentive, it strokes me, it takes care of me. Maybe they're at the, what is this? I want to say horn, but it's not a horn. No, snout. the snout end. And maybe the snout has picked them up and is carrying them and rocking them like in Dumbo, right? And they're having a totally different experience of money. But every single witness, based on their point of view, is crafting their experience. So the person at the ass end could walk around to the snout end, but they're not. They're staying at the ass end and having that experience. So what we want to do with this book is we want to go, would you like to move from the ass end to the end that works better for you? Okay. And we want to craft a different experience. Now that is the use of power for a different future. That's you being power going, I am no longer going to be at the effect of this. I'm no longer going to avoid it. I'm no longer going to hope that it takes care of itself. I am going to consciously and actively cultivate a new biome. Some of you are finding out that I'm very into food. I love food. I actually was studying to be a nutritionist before I found access, like just before I got accepted to a nutrition school. So I've always loved the study of how food affects my body. When I was growing up, we were vegetarian, which is fine. And then I started eating meat later, and that's not super relevant. But what was relevant is for my entire life, I had always had intense digestional problems. Like I had very, very severe digestive issues. And so when in my 20s, I started really looking at what creates that, because I had no education and no information. So, the entirety of my education around food was watch your calories. Okay. So that was all I got. And then I got into my 20s, and I remember one moment in particular. This is a little bit gross, but bear with me. It has a point. I had done a road trip with my mom, and we were down in New Mexico, and we'd stopped at this Mexican restaurant, and I of course had loaded up on all the salsas and the hot stuff and the peppers and the fajitas and all that spicy stuff. And we were driving quite a distance back, and we had to stop and pull over because I couldn't make it. And that particular moment catalyzed me into researching even harder about what was I doing? What was I ingesting that was creating the disruption and the dis-ease in my system? So I ended up doing a lot of just research. I'm not celiac, but I'm close. And this is not to label myself. This is sort of to identify and sort of articulate the way my innards function. But the closest that it got, the closest tool I found to what was happening was the blood type diet, where he talked about how your blood type actually ancestrally indicates the foods that your body has the most ease with. And so I for a month, just to do an experiment, I ate strictly blood type A diet because I'm A positive, so basically, my family in my religion fed my body mostly well, but there were other foods like cheese and dairy and gluten and wheat and all that it just didn't tolerate in the forms that I was eating them. And I know food's a whole conversation, but instead of getting stuck on that, I went to work looking at how do I create a different functional biome in my body. And it required big changes from me. Vegetarian, so I ate strictly blood type A for a month. Now this was back in my 20s, and there's more to talk about when it comes to food now today. But I will tell you that when I do adhere to the food lists in the blood type A diet, I lose weight. My digestion calms down to no disruptions whatsoever. My body naturally moderates to the way it wants to look. And that's that. And when I deviate, I have disruptions. So I think that's pretty interesting. And it really does speak to there are choices you can actively make to create a peaceful financial biome. But they do require that you shake up what it is you're currently doing if you are currently experiencing major disruption where you need to go sit on the can for hours financially. Okay. So what we start to do with this book, like I started to do with the research that I did with food, is we start to feed ourselves something different. How many of you guys are feeding yourselves a diet of worry and stress and anxiety and trying to get out of it and trying to clear it and trying to fix it and trying to change it while ignoring it, while defending it? Okay. That biome does not empower you. That's a disempowering biome. On the reverse, or in another universe somewhere far, far away, actually, that's probably more accurate, there's the feeding yourself what you are, that you can now be, that you can create from. And allowing all of that unconscious muck on the bottom to come to the surface to go away and change. So how do you get your power back? You cultivate a new biome. One, you choose it. You choose it. And I'm never going to not say this, because that is actually the first thing. You choose it. You're like, whatever the fuck it takes, I am having something different financially, with money, with my body, whatever it is. Whatever it takes, I'm having something different. Every time I do that and I make a demand of myself with my body, with weight, with money, with my business, I have something different. And the second thing is you start cultivating a new biome. And what I found with this particular process is it took me about 8 weeks of steady weekly, like going through the whole workbook, using the tools all week, before I was finally like, okay, I get it. I am this. I am power. I am awareness. I am creativity. I am control. I am money. From here, I create. And I completely changed everything that was outputting in my life from a totally different space. You got to get that this space does not happen to you. You can't clear yourself into it. And I think this is another misconception about access consciousness tools in particular, that if you run enough clearings, your money will change. No, money changes from your choice. The clearings make it easier to choose. And if you do need more clearings and you feel like you don't have any choices, you can go to clearingwithcrystal.com and just load up on clearing loops, because I use them all the time. They're a gift, but they don't form the basis of creation. They clear space so that you can create. This is important to start to get, okay? So there's no magic fix. The magic fix to a different financial reality is choice. You choose it. And you choose something before you know how you're going to do it. But you add the things in your life that are going to contribute. And that's why we're doing these 10-week classes on these. Okay. The last one I did of these was the first time I had done it in that format. For the most part, I had done these classes in a 4-hour setting. Doing it in 10 weeks is powerful. That was Gary's idea, because we do the questions every week. So essentially, you're getting a workbook class every week. And now we've also got these additional tools of the Big Five. So the last 10 weeks that we did was really transformative. I really want to invite you to check this out. The link's here. You can check it out here. So you choose it, and then you start to add to your life the things that are going to support your choice. So I'll wrap it up with this little life conversation from me. Hopefully this is relevant. I mean, so just this morning, today's Monday. I record these shows on Mondays. Monday in our house now is sort of like back to school day. And for those of you guys that have kids, you know what this is like. Andres goes back to work. He has a job now. I take him. And we're facing really a whole week of him working a particular number of hours. Last week was our first week experiencing that. And last week, everything felt, it was my birthday. We were just moving in. I was driving all over God's green earth. It was very chaotic. And for those of you guys that keep things in a lot of chaos, this might sound familiar to you. Well, the other thing that happened with all of that chaos, one, it was needed. But the other thing that happened was I wasn't able to put my energy into the business like I know is required for things to continue to grow. I knew it. I just give myself space with that. But I also know that at some point I need to choose something different for the business to work. No, business and living aren't separate, right? For my life to work, for the business to work, I got to be gifting and creating and putting offers out, and that's how business works. So this week, I didn't want to have the same, I realized like over the weekend that I was going to have the same experience. And we talked about this, your biome creates your experience. I was going to have the same experience this week if I didn't do some organization. Now, order and organization can be misidentified. Order is where there's a structure and it can't change. Organization is where you organize your kitchen so that you can create a feast and you know where to find everything. I realized that my life needed some organization this week. Everything's changed. We have a new biome. We're doing new things. I have new roles and new jobs. Okay, cool. So is it possible to accomplish everything I want to accomplish was the first thing I looked at. Yes. Okay. How could this work? This is me being power, right? So how do you take your power back, get your power back? You sit down and you get organized. Now, when it comes to money, there might be a few things to get organized with, right? It might be need to make some lists. I have so many lists of, monies I need, cash flow coming in, what's required to create that. Am I covered if it doesn't come in? Like, are we, getting organized? And then getting organized and then implementing your system. Implementing your system is honoring yourself. This is being power. You honor yourself and your new system. Now, if you make it into a structure and it can't change, then that's not honoring you. But if you honor your system to see how it works, to see what information you get from it, then that's a gift. So I organize myself, and me organizing myself looks a lot. I base it on a schedule. This is not for everybody, but I do it. I need to do this sometimes. And I kind of work backwards. I'm like, what are all the different things I want to get done? How long does that take ish? How early would I have to get up? So I played with that this morning. I got so much information. 1, it was easy to do. 2, things didn't take as long as I thought. 3, there were certain parts of the day where I needed actually more space to do things than I thought. 4, where I could add people that would make my life easier. But I would never have gotten information like that if I hadn't implemented and started to experience a new biome. Okay. So this is you going, yeah, going to do this. We're doing this. We're going to nurture the soil and change the substrate that we've been planting ourselves in. Up to now, I've been planting myself in a freak out, panic, oh my God, I'm going to die substrate. The only way out of that substrate is to let go. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. We're going over here, not even knowing how that's going to work yet. Number 2, I'm going to start getting clear on what I actually require for peace, because I'm the cultivator of my experience. This is how to get your power back, okay? I'm the cultivator of my experience. I curate it. I orchestrate it. I am the one doing all that. What organization is required for this to be more of what I want? And number 3, I am also creativity. So I don't have to live like this. I am creative and I can do anything I want. So organization, okay, cool. Now, what creative thing can I choose that would create something totally different now and in the future? And that's where money absolutely changes forever, because you really just rinse, wash, and repeat, rinse, wash, and repeat, rinse, wash, and repeat. What's the substrate? What's the choice? What's the organization required? And that's really the cycle of action. And it never really changes. The cycle of action stays the same. The choices you make within that cycle always they're dynamic. But that's the joy of living. You get to be as creative as you want to be. And so I would say the beginning of getting your power back is becoming. You become however you become. This is a tool to becoming. And it's not to become something you're not. It's to be everything that you are. When you are everything that you are, money works. So what would it take? See you soon.